We all eat. Indeed, food is a necessity of life. But whereas years ago a majority of Canadians used to simply grow their own food, now most consumers drive to grocery chains or big box convenience stores, insulated and distanced from their food source. Exploring where our food comes from can empower choice and dispel some of the myths surrounding the origins and processes involved in our very complex and highly evolved food system.
Obviously, my food comes from a variety of places, through a variety of channels. Some of them are very far away, thanks to globalization, and especially in the off-season, fresh vegetables can come from half the world away. In season, I tend to get more and more of my stuff from local producers.
The farming population in the past was much larger than it is now. 100 years ago, over half of all Canadians lived on farms, compared to only 2% today. Despite this, farm families still work as a unit, with each member contributing to daily chores. Food science was largely unheard of, and as people have moved to the city, habits have changed, and with it, our relationship with food and the land. We now live much more sedentary lives. In the past, it might have taken a whole day of back-breaking work just to scythe an acre of grain. Today, thanks to mechanization, a farmer can cut and thresh 150 times that amount. Presently, the world population is 7.5 billion. This is expected to rise to 9 billion by 2050. Currently, there are 36 million Canadians and about 48 million hectares of land suitable for planting crops in Canada. Canada and North America have a cheap food policy where production yield and low food prices are enabled. The monoculture landscape and larger farm businesses that we recognize today have emerged, forced by a need to innovate with adoption of new technologies.
Well, I believe over time we have industrialized our food system to having a more of a transactional product of getting the product, having the same standard all through the food chain, and that is caused by industrialization, but also becoming more international, more global economy, and it has removed the consumer from the farm.
Technology never stops evolving, be it for growing food, processing, distributing, or retailing. Drone use and imaging tools integrate with equipment alignment and sensory systems, enabling data analysis and improved management. This allows farmers to more accurately apply expensive inputs like fertilizers and pesticides. Minimum till practices and field leveling implements reduce erosion and have been widely adopted, enhancing soil health and moderating the impact of climate change. In the processing industry, technologies and science have combined to provide consumers with an abundant supply of consistently high-quality, safe food. Automation and robotics with high-resolution camera imaging have increased the speed and efficiency of processing, always striving to save energy and reduce waste. Cold chain refrigeration and temperature control technologies have become standard practice for extending shelf life of products to retain authentic taste and textures. Data tracking and computers allow retailers to forecast peak consumption periods, matching supply to demand to reduce waste. Choices are vast and convenience taken for granted. Marketing and advertising have enormous influence over our ideas of where our food comes from. Though technology is the expression of scientific discovery and human ingenuity, innovation can come in many forms and is often driven by demand.
I think that my biggest worry is the corporate concept of farming is not always in the best interest of our health or our planet?
Because when you buy it in a grocery store, it's very commercially produced and mass produced, and it's not personal at all. Whereas if you actually meet the people who have made the food, it makes it more personal.
We're using horses on our farm for cultivation, for plowing, for a lot of the farm work that we're doing, yeah.
And why?
We do this, we use the horses on the farm. For us, it feels right. The horses are very light on the land in terms of compaction and what they do to the soil. We feel it's an appropriate technology for our scale of farming. It's really nice to be reducing fossil fuel use on the farm. But we do have a mixed system. We use a tractor and the horses kind of where appropriate at the moment.
So what does all this mean? Our food comes from a complex system. A gulf has opened up between consumers and producers. Instead of knowledge about where our food comes from, we receive marketing and media sound bites. We have been conditioned to imagine that all carrots are straight and fruits unblemished, that food should be cheap and waste acceptable.
And I find it interesting that everybody talks about how we need to make sure that there's the family farm, that we have a lot of producers making the food to keep our food supply secure, and that's important. But what a lot of people don't know about, which I find really concerning, is how much centralization there is of processing and of sales. How very few corporations, companies, and families own all our grocery stores. You know, if 6 families owned all the beef farms in Canada, Canadians would be revolting. We would be charging Parliament Hill to demand answers and change. But if 6 corporations own the vast majority of all our grocery stores, which they do, and we're all fine with that. Environmental laws designed to prevent cattle from fouling our streams are wonderful, and I just wish the cities of Gatineau and Montreal would stop fouling the rivers with human effluent before they come after me and my cows. This is theoretical, I don't have a beef farm. But, you know, things like the environment, it shouldn't just be farmers' responsibility, it should be everyone's. That's all.
You may be feeling confused right now, perhaps even a little intimidated. But in the noisy confusion of modern living, things are really not all that bad. According to the most recent statistics, a younger generation is eagerly entering the food industry. It seems a simple thing to drive to the supermarket, fill your basket, and get on with your day. But where our food comes from affects the health of our planet, our communities, and our families. In this noisy confusion, we are still blessed in Canada with an abundance of safe, seemingly inexpensive food. But our system is complex. We owe it to ourselves to research and choose wisely. After all, you are what you eat.